Welcome to the Global Pulse, a short video series where our experts break down a trending topic in international business and why it matters to you.
The Biden administration's executive order on AI, as well as the recent Global AI Summit, have gotten a lot of people talking, and that's a good thing. But why now? There are two things I think that uh, people need to understand in order to really appreciate the context surrounding all of this. First is technology, the capabilities. Uh, Today's AI is fundamentally very different from AI of previous generations in two important ways. The first is that this generation of AI is learning not from our knowledge, but from vast amounts of data as well as its own experiences. And second, it's the format in which it's learning is very similar to how the human brain itself learns using a connectionist paradigm. When you put these two things together, people in research and industry recognize that the potential of today's AI is massive. And we are starting to see that in applications like ChatGPT, as well as in many recent examples where AI was able to beat some of the best doctors in specific medical diagnosis tasks, as well as grandmasters in sports at games that nobody thought a technology could beat a human. Right. So the power of AI, I think, is now well understood. Second, we have a very good understanding today, widely, that technology can be used for good, can also be used for bad. We've seen many examples play out in the last few years, and with AI being as powerful as it is, across the board, there's an understanding of the things that can go wrong. So when you couple these things together, it's creating an environment where now the tech firms are sitting with governments and policy leaders worldwide to come up with with solutions before things get totally out of hand. And it's not just the harms that we're worried about. I think we're worried about the good things not happening as well. And I think that's where, for instance, the Biden administration's executive order really stands out. I found it very balanced. It was very positive in the kinds of things that AI could be used. So I'll just highlight a couple of things. For example, in education and healthcare, being able to help students learn using AI, being able to get the costs of healthcare down and prescription drugs and other things under control for seniors. The potential of AI in these fields is phenomenal, and the executive order directly talks to things like this. It also talks to the government uses of AI to deliver services more efficiently to people, and clearly in areas such as immigration and defense and so on. So all that is awesome, and there's very very good direction on the risks and mitigating the harms, and amongst many things, one thing that stands out in both the Biden administration executive order as well as the recent UK AI summit is a focus on testing, and not just testing without any guidelines, but there will be more specific partnerships between the tech firms and government in terms of how this red team testing, as they call it, is done, and how the results of these testing will be shared with agencies so that it can work like a partnership. A good example might be in the financial industry when we looked at when we have these money transfer, etc. In the US, for instance, there are regulations in place that have banks flagging transactions for anti-money laundering, and then they report these things to the federal agencies. And this is ongoing, and this has really helped ensure that good things happen while we mitigate the harm. Exactly similar things are likely to happen in the AI space. The Biden administration's executive order also takes a focus on workers and explicitly recognizes that, look, AI can be a threat to some people in terms of jobs. And I think it's going to lay the foundation for a very thoughtful process of how do we address it as a group, right? To make sure that we have training and other things in place so that we protect workers as well. So these are, I'd like to say that these are exciting times because I've been in this space myself for about 30 years, and it is exciting. However, I think it's also important to recognize that it's a concerning time because there are many people who might be adversely affected by this, and it's very incumbent on all of us to recognize, not just recognize that, but to actively work on solutions to uh, mitigate some of their concerns. And that's what the executive order is trying to do. We do have a long way to go, but this is a wonderful start. There was some big international news last week on AI. In the UK, there was perhaps the first global AI summit that brought together leaders from over 25 countries and the EU, as well as tech executives and researchers as well, to discuss AI. And there were, two big things that came out of that. One, there was international consensus that that risks do exist and that countries need to come together along with companies to figure out ways in which we can mitigate these risks. There will also likely be a panel on AI safety, an international panel on AI safety and risks that will be set up shortly as well. And this summit is likely to be followed next year in France by the second Global AI Summit as well. Now, the second thing that came out of this was actually an agreement very specifically on testing, which again, a lot of countries and companies signed on to. And in that agreement, there was this recognition that companies building these really powerful AI frontier models, these very large scale, sometimes referred to as AI foundation models that have potentially general purpose capabilities, do need to be tested before and even after release on a constant basis. And the fact that you had both corporations as well as countries agreeing to this is again a good positive step. Now, of course, it's not clear how much of this will show up as regulation. And in fact, there was disagreement specifically on the aspect of whether some of these need to be enacted into laws. There, I don't think there was consensus that did come out. And as well, there was some disagreements in terms of how big these risks were long term. I do think there was consensus on the short-term aspects of it. Like, across the board, everyone recognized that there were short-term risks. But there were some that, potentially looked at AI as possible threats to humanity, but others that didn't seem, and that's an ongoing debate in the AI space as well. So these are very unique occurrences, and I think there's going to be a lot more conversation globally in terms of these types of cooperations between governments as well as companies and researchers in terms of addressing and mitigating risks. So lots will come out of this in terms of specific follow-on steps, we hope, and it may show up as regulation in certain parts of the world as well, things that we need to start looking out for.